It wasn't really until I actually full-fledged started my recruiting agency that I realized how important leverage was in business. So naturally, in this video, I want to tell you how important it is to not only create leverage, but maintain leverage, and then create more leverage. I don't care if you're in the recruiting business, the staffing business, the insurance business, the finance business. Leverage will always get you further. Leverage will always give you more power, and it's always beneficial to have leverage. Now, if some of you guys don't know what I'm talking about when I say the word leverage, I'd like to explain. Watch till the end, because this will definitely benefit you. But leverage is effectively a very small component that makes a big impact on your business, right? So everybody remembers 7th grade science class, right? With the fulcrum, lifting up the rock, and how the fulcrum, right, was so small, right? Like a piece of wood. And you could move something so heavy, right? With just something so light. That's a metaphor for what leverage is, right? So you could have leverage over anything. You could have leverage over people, processes, markets. You could have leverage over all kinds of things. And when you have the right kind of leverage and you use it the proper and right ways, you can be very, very successful. All right, so check it out. The way that I see it, there are two main drivers of leverage in your business that you can clearly, vividly see, and you can clearly, vividly create, right? The first one of those is the ability to identify the crystal clear problems in your business. Generally, we like to call these needle mover problems, right? Like if there was a gauge on the wall and the needle was the thermostat, right? And when you change something, the needle moves, right? So in fact, this is sort of like a big needle mover, right? So when you change something to change this problem or situation, right? It's a needle mover problem. That's what we call it that, right? So when you have these needle mover problems, which is what we call them, effectively, once you can identify those problems, that's key. That's critical. That's the one component, right, of two that can identify exactly how you can create leverage in your business. And then from there forward, you can actually change and benefit your business. So let's go to the second part, the second element that you need to recognize in order to create leverage. All right, so the second piece for your ability to actually create leverage inside of your organization, your business, whatever it is, your corporation, right? You need to have the proper balance, okay, of what we call chiefs versus Indians. Simplest way to put it, right? Basically, this means leadership and implementation. Now, if it's not obvious enough, leadership are the people who make decisions, right? These are boardroom people. These are leaders, right? They wear suits and ties to work, right? And then we have implementers, the doers, right? So if you're literally sitting around at a reservation and you have chiefs and Indians, right? The chiefs don't do the stuff. The chiefs say what to do, and then the rest of the Indians go do it, right? Like build a hut, you know what I mean? Build 10 huts. And then the 10 huts get built by Indians, right? Implementors. So that's the metaphor. So this is actually a really, really long-standing metaphor, chiefs versus Indians. Understanding the dynamic of the balance between leadership and implementation and having the right balance. Okay, so just so we're clear, the two components, before you can even begin to create really strong leverage for your organization is one, identifying the crystal clear needle mover problems in your organization, right? And the outcomes that will happen when you fix those. Number two, having a crystal clear picture of exactly what that balance looks like or imbalance of Chiefs versus Indians. Follow me? Now, when this imbalance, like Chiefs versus Indians, is imbalanced, right? Everybody's a leader or everybody's an implementer. And that's not good, because you either have zero leadership or you either have 100% implementation and nobody's organizing anyone, and either if it's a bunch of chiefs, nobody's doing anything, right? So that's a huge problem, right? The first one is easier to solve, but you need the second one to actually solve it, right? So follow me on that and watch till the end till we can get to the actual conclusion of exactly how you can do this. And yes, trust me, when we can solve the leverage problem, you can make magnitudes more money in your company. All right, so generally speaking, with the leadership and the implementation, you're most likely looking at an 80-20, right? 20% leadership, 80% implementation. That looks about perfect, right? Enough people to implement, enough people to lead. That's perfect. So that problem can be solved fairly simply by looking at who's who, what their skill set is, what their capabilities are, putting them in place so that they can actually take action. Now, the reason they can take action is because you already have a clear, crystal, perfect vision on exactly what those needle mover problems are, right? What those problems are as far as your sales force, what those problems are as far as your products, what those problems are as far as your customers, what those problems are as far as anything. Insert anything in the blank, and those problems are going to be the problems that you have to solve to actually get magnitudes more of income into your organization, right? So we have the Chiefs versus Indians issue. We have the crystal clear vision of what the problems are. When we can put the two together, we can have massive leverage, which can magnify what you're already earning, what you're already bringing in as income. Now, the reason I'm making this video right here, right now, is because generally the people that follow my channel are in startup mode or pre-startup mode, or they're in growth mode, right? And they need to hear things like this because before they reach behemoth mode, right, where they have a bloated staff, a bloated leadership, and a bloated team of implementers, you can't nimbly change things like this on the fly. You can't quickly identify your imbalance. You can't quickly identify your implementation, right? You can't quickly identify those things. Therefore, you can't quickly change them. That's why I want you to know this stuff now, right? As a startup or somebody in growth mode before you're a behemoth, right? Which you will be as you grow and scale. But I want you to solve these problems now, right? So that you don't get to that stage where you can no longer solve these problems to create leverage, right? Because ultimately, you can only solve these problems utilizing leverage. And the only way you can create leverage is when you have that nimble of a team, right? That nimble of leadership, that nimble of implementation. All right, my friends, that is exactly how you create leverage in your business and how you disproportionately create massive upside and massive benefit to your customers, right? Your clients, by solving small incremental problems internally with your leadership and with your implementation, right? Those two simple things can create this massive shift, this paradigm shift with your customers and your clientele, and they won't be the wiser. They won't know anything about what you're doing internally to create these solutions. Guys, I do want to let you know that I have a free Facebook group, Recruiter Empire, link in description. There are over 16,000 recruiters in the group. I'd love to see you next in there, and I will see you next in there, and you'll see me next in my next video. Take care.